This is Senator Rubio's amendment number 2, which concerns Article 25 of the Convention. Let me let Senator Rubio explain his amendment, and then I'll make some comments after that.
Thank
Senator
you.
Rubio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your efforts to find a middle ground, if that's possible, on an issue such as this. And I believe in a moment you'll probably offer a second-degree amendment to it. Let me explain what my amendment. My amendment's pretty straightforward. And first of all, it's entirely consistent with Article 10 of the Convention, which says, in part, states parties reaffirm that every human being has the inherent right to life. That's what it says in Article 10 of the Convention. Further, this understanding, and this is not a reservation, this is an understanding, so it goes into basically an explanation of what we in the Senate understand this convention to mean, this treaty to mean. Back in December 13th of 2006, before the United Nations General Assembly, more than 12 nations, including ours, made official statements regarding the interpretation of the phrase reproductive health. And the pertinent part of the U.S. statement reads as follows. In that regard, the United States understands that the phrase, quote, reproductive health, end quote, in subparagraph blank blank bracket does not include abortion, and that its use in that article does not create any abortion rights and cannot be interpreted to constitute support, endorsement, or promotion of abortion. I've basically taken that language and put it in this understanding, and I'm asking for it to be made part of our ratification of this treaty. I think it's consistent with the statements that you made earlier today, Mr. Chairman, that this treaty has nothing to do with abortion. This just basically places it in the understanding portion of the amendment, of the convention.
Well, Senator Rubio, first of all, I thank you for working with me the last couple of days to try to see if we could find a way not to have an abortion debate on the Disabilities Treaty. And I understand completely that some senators want that declaration further stated. But there are implications to that, and I want to talk about them just a little bit for a minute. First of all, Article 25 and the Convention itself, if you read through it, does not address abortion. It doesn't mandate or prohibit any particular health care procedure. It simply requires that to the extent that health care is provided in a non-discriminatory fashion. Now, it doesn't change in any way our law in this country on abortion. And everybody here understands that the only way any law could be changed with respect to abortion would be the result of our domestic process. Had nothing to do with this treaty, and that's been made crystal clear by the amendments we've just adopted as well as the discussion that we've had here. So I personally do not believe, and I think the language is dispositive on this, that we need any language whatsoever with respect to the issue of abortion. We actually could do one thing, here without sort of having that debate. My strong preference would be that the committee would move this to the floor without sort of re-entering that debate. And let me share with colleagues why I say that. This is the convention. This is the transmittal letter, the convention, et cetera. And the language here couldn't be more clear. It says, as elaborated above, Article 25 is a non-discrimination provision and does not address the matter of abortion. The convention does not affect United States law with regard to abortion, as the text and Travo quoted above make clear. And let me read from that. The United States of America understands that its obligations in this respect are to prevent discrimination on the basis of disability in the provision of any such rights, referring back to economic, social, cultural, whatever, as they are recognized and implemented under U.S. federal law. So the only thing that could happen here is defined by U.S. federal law, and U.S. federal law is clear with respect to abortion. So it's not necessary. Now, I understand that we are in a situation where the senator is exercising the right to have a vote, and several senators are interested in doing that. So if we need to do it, I'd like to do it in a way that sort of doesn't favor one side over the other, but is kind of neutral if we can, but nevertheless accomplishes the task. And I think there's a way to do that. And the reason I have a problem, when I say I, a lot of folks have an issue with the amendment as drafted, is that the amendment expressly states that the term sexual and reproductive health does not include abortion. But that's an issue in which there is not agreement in the United States of America. That is the debate. It also states that abortion cannot be supported as a method of family planning. That is an issue on which there is not agreement in the United States. So, you know, this is a debate, folks, we don't have to have with respect to the Disabilities Convention. But if we're going to have it, then I have a second-degree amendment, which I believe is neutral. I'm not trying to move the needle on the abortion issue one way or the other. Simply that the treaty, you know, to state that the treaty has no impact one way or the other. The law is what the law is. And I would implore everybody to accept this approach. Let's find a way to have one thing happen around here that doesn't have to get caught up in all of the other tensions of American politics at this moment. And I think we could come together on that, frankly. So I have a second-degree amendment which merely clarifies that no health care procedure, no procedure is affected by this. And it clearly encompasses abortion as well as any other kind of procedure that might exist. And I would hope colleagues would find that that's an adequate way to try to deal with this in a responsible and neutral way. Senator Boxer.
Thank you. Well, I just wanted to thank you, Senator Kerry, for calling a group of us together. You called actually all the members who were interested to talk about this, to try and find common ground. I so appreciated that. And I think the way to find common ground is what you have suggested, that this treaty has nothing to do with abortion. It has nothing to do with vasectomies. It has nothing to do with birth control. All it says is that whatever the laws are in the countries, that those laws will be followed. Senator Rubio, it is clear that Article 25 of the Convention is a non-discrimination provision, and that reproductive health care will be applied in a manner consistent with U.S. law. Now, you may not like the law. You may not like the court's interpretation. Sometimes I don't like the court's interpretation. But to bring it into this discussion is inappropriate. Now, you have taken language from the Bush administration. That's the language you put in. Well, the Bush administration is no longer running this country in terms of the executive branch. So that language, to me, is yesterday's language. The fact is, if we want to get this done, we have to set aside this hot-button issue. Article 25 of the treaty does nothing to change any U.S. duly passed law, and it doesn't do anything to override any court decision. So we shouldn't use an international treaty to bring up such a divisive issue. We shouldn't do it. Our laws are paramount, and no senator, in my view, should use an international treaty to push his or her views on an issue that isn't part of this treaty. Look, as a woman, as a pro-choice woman, I could write a great, statement that I would support that would inject the hot button. I've chosen not to do that. And I think for the good of the disabled community, you should withdraw. Take your views to the Senate floor. Let's debate there. Let's debate the need to defend a woman's life, her health, her ability to retain her fertility. That's an appropriate debate. I welcome it. And we could have a good debate. So I say, as a woman, as a mom, as a grandma, as a senator from the largest state in the union, let's take this issue to the Senate floor, and we will discuss it and see if we can reach an agreement, but not on a crucial international treaty that will lift up those with disabilities here and around the world, a treaty that does nothing to change any U.S. law or any interpretation of U.S. law. And I think what Senator Kerry tried to do, and I just want to applaud him because he pulled us all together yesterday, is the right thing. It simply reiterates the fact that abortion has nothing to do with this. No other procedure does. No other treatment does. Each country will have its own laws. And I hope that you withdraw, because I think you're putting this whole thing in peril. And people who are holding their breath on this know that if this is injected into this debate, it'd be most unfortunate.
Mr.
Senator Rubio,
Chairman, thank you.
Do you want to speak now, or did another senator wanted to talk?
Sure, let's go ahead.
Okay. Senator Shaheen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you again. I would reiterate both what you and what Senator Boxer said about the effort to try and find some common ground in addressing Senator Rubio's amendment. I think one of the very important things about this treaty is that it recognizes the unique challenges that women face, women with disabilities face. In many countries, not only are they challenged by their gender, but they're challenged by the fact that they have disabilities. And the treaty's focus on the particular needs of women with disabilities really mirrors what has happened in the United States. And we are a leader in standing up for the rights of all women. I think that's very important. That's the focus of the treaty, on ensuring that all people with disabilities, including women, should not face discrimination. The treaty does not provide, as has been said, any rights in regard to abortion or other reproductive health care. It simply ensures that individuals cannot be discriminated against on the basis of their disability. And in fact, we heard directly from the National Right to Life organization in 2006, Senator Durbin brought this up at the hearing, that the treaty, and I'm quoting, cannot legitimately be misinterpreted to include abortion or to create any new rights, such as a right to abortion. This treaty is not about new rights or mandates with respect to abortion, and we should not single out this reproductive health issue with respect to this treaty, because it is simply about non-discrimination. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Senator Rubio. Senator DeBent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Rubio's concerns are not unfounded. Planned Parenthood, one of the largest abortion providers in the world today, does it under the name of non-discriminatory reproductive health. These words are important, and they're of great concern. They've been of great concern to other countries. 3 of the countries that have ratified this treaty have had reservations about this particular part that Senator Rubio is bringing up. He's not making this up. Poland had a reservation exactly like Senator Rubio's. Monaco, Malta, and other countries considering this treaty are looking at the same provision. So this is something we say, everyone here is saying they agree with what Senator Rubio is saying, that this in no way suggests abortion. Why don't we just put it in a reservation so that we know and that the rest of the world knows that it has nothing to do with abortion? Thank you.
Senator Rubio.
Thank you. And just, if I appear distracted, my daughter's at a conference, and she just got out a little early, so she's texting me to find out why I'm not there to pick her up. So if she's watching C-SPAN, just let her know someone's coming. They're coming, so yeah, good. All right. Second, on the, just in case they're watching C-SPAN, you never know. Well, somebody might be at the conference. They'll tell her, your dad was just on TV. Saying. Let me say a couple things about this, and this is no one's going to change their mind on the issue of abortion in this debate or even in the Senate today. This is a deeply held belief. And in fact, polling shows that America's divided almost in half on this issue, and I respect that, and I respect that people of goodwill could be on both sides of this issue. I've been hearing today throughout this debate, and in fact leading up to it, that this convention in no way changes law in the United States, and yet now I'm hearing that if somehow I file an understanding to it, it could somehow change the law of the United States, or at least apply to the way our domestic laws view this issue. So I'm puzzled by that, because I don't think that's accurate. Here's all this does. All this does What I've heard here today was that this convention has nothing to do with abortion. And that's all my amendment says. All my amendment says is that it does not in any way apply. If you read what it says that it reflects the statement made back in 2006 by the Bush administration at the time, that the phrase reproductive health does not include abortion, and that its use in the article does not create any abortion rights and cannot be interpreted to constitute support, endorsement, or promotion of abortion. This in no way applies how other countries' laws should read. It in no way implies how our laws should read domestically. It just says that this convention doesn't deal with this issue. Now, the one statement I did hear that maybe should concern us is this notion that because it was the Bush administration who said this back in 2006, we're no longer bound by that because we have a new administration. That actually means that, in fact, maybe some think it should deal with abortion, that maybe this statement would not have been made by the current administration if it was there. So look, I understand this is a passionate issue for a lot of people. I think we should have a vote on it. I think everyone knows where they stand on this issue, to be quite frank. My hope is only to put in this as an understanding, not a reservation, as an understanding what we've already said here today, and that is that this convention has nothing to do with abortion, nor does it create any rights. Whatever the law is in your country on this issue, whether we agree with it or not, that's what the law is going to remain.
Well, Senator, if I can speak to that, you're a very articulate guy, and you understand the nature of this kind of a statement. And if your amendment were as limited as you say, it might be a slightly different debate. But in effect, your amendment expressly states, is not as a matter of law, incidentally, and I'm not suggesting, you're correct in saying, and I'm not suggesting that this somehow changes the law in our country, but for a lot of people who are in that other side of the divide in our nation, you are in fact stating something in your amendment that they don't accept. And a lot of people feel, well, that opens up a whole new sort of level of debate if suddenly the United States states as a matter of the ratification that this is the definition or term. And that is specifically, you say that the term sexual and reproductive health does not include abortion. Now, that's not an accepted, people don't agree with that necessarily in the United States. But let me cut to the, likewise on family planning. But here's the deal. The Bush administration did indeed put that in. They put it into CEDAW. We have yet to pass CEDAW. And so it's not the law of the land, even though the Bush administration proposed it, and they proposed something that was consistent with their point of view. Again, not fully accepted by everybody in the country. So all I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to actually meet your need, our need. I'm as, I want the fewest possible number of abortions, and if you could end them completely, that would be terrific. And I subscribe to the notion they should be rare. And I also subscribe to the notion that it has to be legal under our court. But all I'm trying to do here is accomplish your goal, to be clear that that procedure can't, or any other procedure, is not opened up as a consequence of this treaty. So my language is as follows. The United States of America understands that the convention is a non-discrimination instrument. Therefore, nothing in the convention, including Article 25, addresses the providing of any particular health program or procedure. That covers it.
Mr.
So,
Chairman?
I don't see how, what we're actually arguing about except for this differential on the other parts of your
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Box.
Mr. Chairman, I see what we're arguing about. Senator Rubio says all he wants is to say abortion has nothing to do with this treaty. But that's not what his language says. That's what your language says. So if it's true, Senator Rubio, that all you want is to make sure that abortion has nothing to do with this treaty, you should support the chairman, because your language says The United States understands that the phrase sexual and reproductive health of the convention does not include abortion. Now, you and I could have this argument on the floor, and if we did, I would say if a woman rushes into a hospital and is bleeding and the doctor says she'll die if that pregnancy continues and may have to perform an abortion, you say, here, it has nothing to do with reproductive health. Now, we could have that argument in another venue. What the chairman is desperately trying to do to rescue this treaty, to make this work, to bring us together for once, is to simply say that this treaty has nothing to do with any particular procedure, whether it's abortion, vasectomy, you name it. You know, the provision of Viagra, all of those things fall into this, okay? What you're doing is changing a definition that goes against U.S. law as interpreted by the courts. I am shocked that any senator would want to use an international treaty to change American law, regardless of what you think about it. So I would urge you, Senator Rubio, in the name of bringing us together, in the name of keeping a hot-button issue off this debate, in the name of the people who need this treaty, to back off, to support Senator Kerry on this, and we'll all be in agreement that this treaty does not do one thing to change American law as it pertains to reproductive health care.
Mr. Chairman, I go back to the same point. I'd like to make 2 points. Number one, I understand that there's a debate in America about whether sexual and reproductive health includes abortion. I understand there's a debate on that. And you're right that the right forum for the debate about whether sexual and reproductive health in America should be something that we do in the Senate and in our legislative bodies across the country. I've had that debate before. I'm sure we'll continue to have it. That's not what my amendment is about. My amendment is about Article 25A of the Convention, and it says it very specifically. It doesn't say that for purposes of the world or for purposes of American law, the phrase sexual and reproductive health does not include abortion. It says that for purposes of this specific article and specific 25A of the Convention, it doesn't mean that. Now, I don't understand how that changes American law. I've been told repeatedly here today, and I agree, that this convention cannot and does not change American law. You can't, we've talked about this today, that you can't march into an American courtroom and say, I have in my hand the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, and it says that sexual and reproductive health does include abortion, therefore abortion is illegal in the state of Florida, California, or Massachusetts, or any other state. No one's making that argument that you could do that. How can this change American law? We've already said it doesn't apply to American law. The only thing my amendment does is it says that for purposes of this specific provision in the convention, that phrase does not include abortion, just for purposes of this convention, not anything else. That's all my amendment says. Now, there may be people that, I'm not claiming that you do. I don't know what, I don't mean to put words in your mouth. I don't know, maybe there are people that think it should include abortion, and that's fine, we can have that debate as well. All I'm trying to do is state a position that I think would make a lot of people more comfortable knowing that that phrase in this convention does not mean that. That's the only thing this applies to. It's the only thing this applies to. And,
Well,
and any other argument apart from that is really a red herring.
Senator, if I could just say, I think we need to get to a vote on this, frankly, but let me just say quickly, you have used the Bush language of the CEDAW to support what you're trying to do. I guarantee you that if your language passed stating something that is not currently law, someone else is going to pick it out and say, oh, look what they passed. This is what they, this is what this is about. It's not accurate that sexual and reproductive rights don't include abortion to a lot of people. It's not, certainly not the state of the law. So that will be used as an argument, just as you've used the CEDAW language to buttress what you're doing here. But the more important question here is, we've got something here that isn't controversial, that gets the job done, that specifically says, we don't need to go down the language of your amendment, because my amendment specifically says no particular health program. In fact, it's broader. No particular health program, no procedure, whatever it may be, is included here. Not just abortion, anything. So it's non-discriminatory. We should, you know, this, it seems to me, gets the job done more effectively, frankly, more comprehensively, and without the controversy, and that's why I would recommend it.
Mr. Chairman,
Casey.
I want to say something about your second degree, but first of all, I want to say with regard to Senator Rubio, you've approached this issue, and I think in a very thoughtful way, very measured way, and it's a tough issue whenever it's raised. We have had, in the 5.5 years that I've been on this committee, a number of times, not many, but a few times when I believed, and I think people on both sides of the abortion issue believed, that abortion was relevant and implicated in the discussion or in the matter we're considering. I don't think this is one of those occasions, but if we have to deal with it, and I think we're going to have to, the reason I think this second degree does that is not just because of the nature of the language. That Senator Kerry's second degree is specifically the language that says nothing in the convention, including Article 25, addresses the providing of any particular health program or procedure. I think that does, as well as the other language in the second degree addresses it. But I think the most important part about the second degree is it's a fundamental statement of clarity, and that's helpful, I think, but also a statement about neutrality. It doesn't move the needle. And I think on both sides, neither side wants to move the needle in this kind of a matter, this kind of a treaty, or this kind of a convention on the issue of abortion. We all, I think, believe that this shouldn't be a vehicle to do that one way or the other. So I think the good news about the second degree, and the reason I can support it, is it doesn't move the needle, but it also does provide a measure of clarity that maybe is constructive.
Well, I think we know how we're all going to vote, so I just want to close by saying a couple things. Senator Kerry, you pointed a moment ago to how this language could be used by some to say, look what they've said. This is their new proclamation of law. And I've heard repeatedly here today that nothing in this can be used to go into a U.S. court or to try to change U.S. law on a number of the amendments that the minority has offered. But now somehow this language could be used in a court or in a U.S. law or in a U.S. political process to argue that the law has changed. I don't think that's true. I think we've all been pretty clear that we in no way want this convention to be used as a tool for people to come before U.S. courts and try to change U.S. law. This doesn't change Roe v. Wade. This doesn't change how different states regulate abortion or don't regulate abortion. And I don't think anyone here is arguing that it should. Now, that's a whole separate debate about whether sexual and reproductive health includes a specific right to abortion in America. That is a whole separate debate. It's a controversial one, and I understand that. That's not what this is about. I'm more than willing to engage in that debate as well, but not as part of this. This is only about this convention and whether that language in this convention means that. And that's all I intended to do here, and that's why I think it's important. My last point, I appreciate what you're trying to do. I know the word abortion triggers controversy, phone calls, letters, activity, and that could weigh down overall the entire thing. I understand that, and I understand that's that kind of issue in America and continues to be. Sometimes, unfortunately, those things can't be avoided, and as far as this issue is concerned, I think clarity is important. I want to repeat, all my amendment does is state very clearly, at the end of the day, that this Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities is about persons with disabilities. It is not about abortion, and that's what I intended to do. And so I hope my colleagues will vote down the second degree and give us a vote here on the amendment. Thank you.
Senator Isaacson.
I don't want to delay the debate, and I'm not going to debate, but I do want to make a point. This treaty is about people with disabilities. I think what Senator Rubio is attempting to do is ensure that the debate on the floor is about people with disabilities and not about the abortion issue. I know there are different ways to look at it. I respect the chairman's second-degree amendment, but I support what Senator Rubio is trying to do because I'm here because of people with disabilities. That's what the debate's about. That's what this states. And I believe, in my judgment, Senator Rubio's approach is preferable to the chair's, with all due respect to the chair, because in the end, we're going to end up in a debate we don't want to be in on the floor of the United States Senate. So I strongly endorse the amendment of Senator Rubio.
Thank you, Senator Isaacson. Is there any further debate? If not, I think we're going to need a roll call on this. So clerk will call the roll.